Welcome, one and all, to another I'm pissed off about Pokemon. I'm upset! I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling unhealthy, I'm feeling toxic. That's right, we're talking about poison types today. I don't even care that I threw you Creamtown.
You bitch!
I'm gonna do it again. I'm upset! I'm angry! I like poison types. A lot of them are really cool. I fucking love Skorupi. And he's bad. And poison types is bad. It's another I'm upset that this type is bad episode. Yeah, that's right. We're doing them all. Eventually. Today, poison types. Get ready for a bitter, angry gamer defending poison types. Because goddamn it, I'm upset. Come back here, Creamtown. I'm sorry, buddy. We've done, what, 3 of these now? 4? We've done 4 of these now. This is the 5th one. You gotta know the formula by now. You gotta know where I'm starting off. Stats. How do they look? They look terrible. Poison is second to last place for the first 3, and for the overall. The very best it can muster? Speed. First of all, who gives a shit about speed when you can't hit anyone? Me. I do. I really like speedsters. I'd like to be one. That's not the point. The point is, if you can't pack a punch, speed is irrelevant in Pokemon. Asterisk. 10th is the best you can do, and it was a speed. You know the podium? There's 3 spots. Gold, silver, and bronze. If you had a podium of podiums, poison still wouldn't get there. The best poison can do is 1 short of podium squared. This makes me feel like I didn't even medal in Mario Kart Wii. This is how this makes me feel. So the stats are fucked. This is old hat at this point. Let's look at the types, the type matchups. Maybe that'll be better. Okay, to be fair, this one is better than the last 3 that we talked about, significantly. I would still argue that it's not very good, but it is better. We're gonna start with defense this time, so I conceptualize things the correct way. Poison is weak to ground. Seems arbitrary. This is another situation. We're gonna get to the offense in a second. It makes sense that poison is bad at attacking the ground. That makes total sense. I don't understand why ground is good against poison. I feel like a lot of the typings are conceptualized as the thing they are, rather than the creatures they represent. See also the psychic weakness of mind over matter. That's why that. And that's like using the mind to overcome the poison, not using the mind to overcome a snake. So if we're conceptualizing poison as poison, the stuff, and ground as ground, the thing, why is ground particularly good at aggressing into poison? Where are we getting that? I'm talking it through, I'm trying to come up with a way that makes sense. I got nothing. I don't know what to tell you about that one. Psychic, I get. The mind over matter thing, I get. It's weird, but it's weird in a way that like has that mnemonic to fall back on. I get it. I got it. I like it. Let's keep that. All of the things that poison resists, these make sense. Fighting not being good against poison, sure. Poison resisting itself, sure. Grass, bug, fairy, yeah, all right. All of that makes sense. Honestly, most of this makes sense, other than the ground thing, as previously mentioned. But I've got some things that I think need added. First of all, I've got a new type cycle that we need to throw in there, I think, methinks, similar to a light and dark type from this video. Go check that out if you haven't. I think poison and water should be super effective into each other. Somebody in the last video I did about this, not the fairy type one, whatever was before that, grass type, brought up the point that poison also has some connotations of pollution, which is good. I like that. It makes sense. And also, water is the purifier. If you're trying to get something clean, you wash it. Almost always with water. Granted, poison is the like inside the body thing. It's not just dirt. But I still think it makes sense, especially because in the body, hydration and removal of toxins via hydration is one of the main systems of getting rid of poison, assuming it's not something that's all the way lethal. And there's not an antibody type or an antidote type, and there shouldn't be. So I think the closest thing to that is water, but also pollute the water. I think these two being super effective into each other would make for an interesting dynamic there. All right, on to the other half. Poison is super effective against grass. We talked about this. I still don't super get this one. I've already said this. Go watch this video. I explain it better there. I don't know how I feel about grass being here, but we can't take that away from poison without giving it something else. So I think poison type should be super effective against a couple things that it's not. Water, as previously mentioned, although water should be able to hit back. Normal, I think, should be weak to poison, because normal is just regular animals. And if you're just a regular animal, and you get poisoned, well, them's the breaks, kids. If I got bit by a snake, my ass is cooked. I'm not just gonna get over that. I mean, it depends on what the snake is, but you see what I'm getting at. Poison, in nature, is a way to deal with just regular animals when you're not going to win the just regular animal fight. Like, you put me up against any snake that isn't a high caliber constrictor, and it doesn't have any poison, I'm gonna win that fight. It's gonna suck, I'm gonna get bit a bunch, but like, you put me up against a dry rattlesnake and that thing is over. But you put me up against a rattlesnake that's got its venom intact, and it's lights out for me whether or not that snake survives. I'm definitely a normal type as a human being. Poison beats normal. So poison should beat normal. Poison should beat water. Yeah, I'm still iffy on grass. I'm also kind of iffy on bug. I see why bug is not here. For the same reason that I think grass should not be here, because a lot of bugs are themselves inherently poisonous. And also, getting poison into a bug without just killing it, very hard to do. And kind of unnecessary. It's that same, like, evolution thing. Poison is used to deal with things that are bigger than you, that you wouldn't normally beat. You don't really need that for a bug. Pretty much anything that gets poisoned that isn't a bug already is gonna win a fight against that bug with or without the poison. See also the snake argument from last time. So I get why that doesn't work. Poison, not very effective into poison, sure, makes sense. Not very effective into ground, yep, totally. Rocks, got it, sure. Ghost, okay, they're already dead, they can't be poisoned, I get it. Honestly, as much as poison does not need to be worse, it having no effect against ghost makes more sense if we're talking about things that, in a way that, like, makes sense based on what they are, but I don't really think ghost needs a buff, and poison certainly doesn't need a nerf, so that can stick around. Steel, no effect against poison. This is a similar thing to ghost. Poison would be no more effective against steel than it would a ghost. Honestly, it might be a little bit more effective because at least steel is tangible. I feel like steel can lose this immunity and still be in a fine position, and poison will be a little less bad. I could see that going either way. Here's my hot take for poison. Here's how I think we fix it. Right now, as it is, poison is leaning defensive rather than leaning weakly defended. And it doesn't really have the stats to back itself up. And it doesn't have a ton of offense. So, here is my pitch to you. I think poison type, if it stays with this spread the way that it is, should be the place where we introduce hyper effective and barely effective. I think that if we're doing the mind over matter thing, then psychic should resist poison for triple, not for double. I think that poison should resist grass for triple, not for double, and itself, and fighting, all of that. And I think that it should do triple damage into fairy types. Hyper effective. And now I hear you all crying heresy because Pokemon's all been about ×2 and ×4 for the past 9 generations, but honestly, that's boring. If I'm an ice type and I'm going into a grass fire type, that just canceling out and ending up neutral is boring. I'm poisonous and I'm attacking Diancie, right? I think it would be interesting if there's the potential for that to do ×3 divided by 2, 1.5 times regular damage. Because you're better into fairy than you are bad into rock. Or I guess I am in this example. And for anyone upset that I'm adding a 3 into a game of 2s, or trying to defend against fairy, we're gonna stretch together, because doing our stretches is important. You ready? Here we go. There we go. So that's my thoughts on the type matchups, but there's more to types than just their matchups, I hear you saying, and you're right about that. Poison is known for its status, primarily, so let's talk about that. Regular poison is terrible. It just is. It doesn't have the make you less good at attacking like burn does. It doesn't take away any of your action economy like the other 3 does. It's just there. It's really just there to be a stepping stone to get in the way of toxic spikes being all the way good. Speaking of toxic spikes, let's talk about all of the ways to get different statuses on different people. I went through this and... whoo boy! Now Poison has 4 ways that you can get it onto someone. 4 dedicated moves. I'm not counting any of the additional ways to get things on there where it's thrown in as a little bonus, regardless of what status we're going to talk about. There are 4 ways to get poison on a person. Poison powder, which is regular poison, and therefore sucks. It also has an accuracy of 75, which is among the worst of the dedicated status moves. Poison gas, which does exactly the same thing, but is a bit better. Toxic spikes, as previously mentioned. Get it out once for poison, get it out twice for toxic, sure. And toxic, tried and true. This one's everywhere. And I'll admit, this one being around is pretty good. There's also technically toxic threads, but literally only 2 spiders learn that move, so we're gonna pretend that doesn't exist. So you've got pretty limited options. Really, you've only got 2 options that are worth having, toxic and toxic spikes, one of which is not perfectly accurate, and the other of which has some serious setup conditions, and it doesn't affect flyers, and can be rapid spinned away, and. Let's compare that to sleep. Sleep has considerably more options and is arguably the better status condition. The only difference being that it's not permanent because, hey, that'd be busted as fuck. There's sleep powder, sing, hypnosis, yawn, spore, and if you want to get extra special and banned from competitive, dark void, the one that hits everybody. Sometimes. Considerably more going on there, including a special case with 100% accuracy, a special case that hits multiple people, and a whole bunch of different ways to get it on a whole bunch of different guys. And notably, no type immunities. But surely that's the good one. The good thing about sleep is that you can get it everywhere, right? Surely there wouldn't be another one that's even easier to get on people. Paralysis is annoying. It's got stun spore, just like poison powder, just like sleep powder. Thunder wave, the tried and true, the classic, that can miss. It's got glare, the normal type version, which can't miss. And it's got nuzzle, the electric type version, that can't miss. And also does damage. Now I know what you're thinking, but it's paralysis. It's not nearly as good as poison, which does damage. No. Paralysis, as you may not know, makes it a 50-50 chance that you just don't get to play the game, and on the half of the game that you do get to play, you're half speed. I know I shit on speed earlier, but cutting it an actual half, basically guaranteeing that the other person is gonna go first, even when you only get to play half the time? Yeah! The lack of it dealing damage is not a big enough drawback to equate these benefits. That's so powerful. We're not gonna talk about burn, because there's only one move that gets burn on you, and it's Will-O-Wisp. And even that is not 100% accurate. Technically, if you want to get really hyper specific, you could also trick a flame orb onto the enemy Pokemon and that'd get them burned. But that's so conditional and taking up your item slot and making you use whatever their item was, which could be terrible for you. We're not even gonna consider that. So Will-O-Wisp is all you get. Sorry, Burn. At least you're based on a good type and have a good secondary effect. And that's not even to mention Freeze. Freeze has no moves. There's no way to freeze someone consistently. You just have to hope and pray on an Ice Beam. I guess it's fair though. Being frozen sucks. So the application of the status sucks. The base status sucks. Granted, it does have a heightened version, which is much harder to get on people, but it at least has something. It's got Toxic. Toxic exists. You can get people Toxic. And I'll admit, the Toxic mechanic, pretty cool in concept. I feel it could stand to be buffed, or it could stand to be the only version of Poison. Why do I say this? Well, in real life, Poison is meant to debilitate and cripple more and more as time goes on until finally you're just gone, which is exactly what Toxic does. Poison, on the other hand, is just kinda there. It's just shitty burn. So if we've made this interesting thing for the Poison type that's already kinda fast, not strong, not offensive, let's give that to everybody. Let's let that be the thing that it's known for. And if that's not gonna be the only thing, then let's make it a little bit better. Let's have it so that Toxic doesn't reset when you switch out. Not that it keeps ticking in the background, that's different. Every time you get hit by Toxic, it goes up by 6%. So the first turn it's X, the second turn it's 2X, the third time it's 3X, whatever. Show the numbers so people don't get confused. And then if you switch your Pokemon out, that resets. Why? I think that should not reset. I think that should just, whatever that counters at, however many X's you've got when you left, you keep that many X's when you come back in. Or, alternately, you stack on another X whenever you get hit by a poison type move. Not both. Both of those at the same time would be way too powerful. But either of those changes, I think, could make the status and therefore the type more interesting and make gameplay a bit more dynamic. You get poison on a psychic ground type, you're only doing a quarter of your regular damage. But if you get toxic on there, now you have the trade-off. Do I use something that's not stab and try and chip in a little more physical damage? Or do I do something that I know is going to be bad and tack on another hit of toxic? Not another use of toxic, let me be clear. Getting a hit with a poison move while toxic's on you should not trigger the damage again. It should just up the stack for the next time the damage triggers automatically. That, I think, is what would fix that. And now I hear what you're saying. Wobble, hawk, person, name, detail. Who's to say? Fire! Poison doesn't deserve this. Poison is fine. It doesn't need to get any better. It's already fine where it is. It's not. And I can prove that it's not. You want to know how? Here is a list of every Pokemon in the game. Going by so fast that I'm sure you couldn't process any of it. But don't worry, that's what I'm here for. I'm gonna break it down for you. What is the strongest Pokemon in the entirety of every game? Because I'll bet you it's not a Alright, that's embarrassing. That one's an outlier, though. We're gonna ignore him. The real reason we're gonna ignore him is because he's not a playable character. You can't have him, you can't get him. He's a boss. Irrelevant, doesn't count. So instead of that, let's look at this. From the top of this list down, how many types do you think get represented before poison type gets represented? Go ahead, take a moment, think it out, get your guesses down in the comments. You ready? Here's the answer. 3, 2, 13. 13 types show up at least once before poison type. And in the case of quite a few of them, it's way more than once. Looking at you, Dragon and Psychic. But I hear you saying that top one is still Eternatus. Granted, it's the Eternatus you can have, but what about without Eternatus? What about without the ultimate legendary ever? Seems like another outlier. We should maybe exclude that. And I think you're right, so I did those numbers too. Brace yourself. The only type that shows up after poison is Bug. It's the only one. Not a water, not a ice, so often snubbed, not a grass. The first time poison shows up, it's Mega Venusaur, and that's with grass on it. But Mega Sceptile gets there first. But now I hear you saying, hey, hold on, that's Megas. That probably shouldn't count. And honestly, Legendaries probably shouldn't count either. Get out of here, Kyurem White, Mew, Buzzwole. No Legendaries. Last chance to get a guess in. Without any Legendaries. And without any Mega Evolutions. At what point do you think poison shows up? How many types get there before poison type? Here's your last chance. 3, 2, it's none. It's none of them. Every single type in the game shows up before poison type. And you know what the poison type is? It's Crobat. And you know how we feel about Crobat. Poison type has been slandered for far too long. This is bullshit, and I won't stand for it. And you know, the icing on the cake, the final indignity that poison type suffers, there is not a single poison type in the Smash Ultimate Pokeballs. Not a single one. And over the entire history of the franchise, there's only been 5. Beedrill, Venusaur, Wheezing, Coughing, and Bottom Surgery. And they're all fucking Gen 1! Bet you thought I forgot. Bet you thought I forgot to say Maleic and Sleepless Nights. Well, there they are. And you could be next.